Welcome back everyone. Baldur's Gate 3 features a massive campaign with numerous characters, enemies, quests, and outcomes. Before you experience the world of Baldur's Gate 3, you will first need to choose a class. There are a stunning 46 subclasses that further define the 12 classes available in Baldur's Gate 3. But which should you pick? And what would provide you with the finest gameplay or the desired combat of your choice? In this video, we'll be ranking each class from best to worst, but instead of a traditional list, we'll be assigning each class to a tier. Having a strong character from the start is important for a smooth run because you're expected to devote a lot of time to the campaign. To determine which classes are the best, we'll be looking at three things: combat efficiency, dialogue, and exploration. The greatest classes in Baldur's Gate 3 usually have overlap that makes them extremely effective party members in a variety of different situations. No class, however, is a master in all of these domains. It's important to keep in mind that you can have up to 3 additional companions join you, with a companion for almost every possible class, so you don't need to have one character that is a master at everything. Quick disclaimer, my rankings are based on personal preference, as well as the best choices for subclass, race, and abilities. Depending on your playstyle, of course, yours can be different. However, in general, these are the greatest classes, and they'll help you a lot in dialogue, exploration, and fighting on all of Baldur's Gate 3's difficulty settings. The first S tier class in Baldur's Gate 3 is the Bard. Bards only really struggle when they are alone, but when that happens, the Bard typically has a way out. Now, despite being a jack of all trades class, Bards are among the best when it comes to having a positive social influence and helping their allies. For instance, the effects of Bardic Inspiration, which enables the Bard to grant allies better rolls, can change the course of battle. This enables the Bard to accomplish things that most other classes cannot, such as turning the tides of battle or ensuring that a plan goes as intended. The Bard struggles on their own, but they thrive with allies, enhancing them and giving your squad the upper hand as frequently as possible. Given how effective they are in both battle and interpersonal interactions, it's difficult not to desire a Bard on every team. Next up on the S tier list, we have the Cleric. It's safe to assume that the Cleric class in Baldur's Gate 3 is among the greatest. Spells like Healing Word, Bless, Guiding Bolt are the reasons why. From bonuses to your ability checks to regeneration and even radiant damage, you literally have everything you need. Clerics can take a few blows since they have the ability to use medium armor and shields. As a result, for the majority of the campaign, you'll probably maintain Shadowheart in your party. If you like, you can even create a primary character who is a Cleric. After all, the best Baldur's Gate 3 parties feature Clerics prominently, so you shouldn't leave camp without one. Clerics are amazing because they can frontline, they can heal, they're built for considerable damage, and they offer unique strengths against undead enemies. The next S tier class is the Paladin. Paladins can use heavy armor, which makes them even tankier than clerics. They don't have as many spells, but they still learn some that are actually quite helpful. The prime ability of this class, along with several smites that add different amounts of damage or effects with each strike, is Divine Smite. The Bless ability is one of the best you can choose. It can empower your entire party. The Oath spells, including Oath of the Ancients and the Healing Radiance spell, are what propel the Paladin to the top of this ranking. The Healing Radiance spell is a must-have because it heals your entire party when it's cast and again at the beginning of each round. The Paladin is a beast on the battlefield thanks to the amazing class skills that are available for each subclass. The best of both worlds can actually be found in one party member if you multi-class a Bard or Cleric with a Paladin. Next up, we have the Sorcerer class. Now, the ability to perform spells without the aid of outside resources is fantastic. Sorcerers are very adaptable thanks to their sorcery points and meta magic options, which allow them to alter and improve their spells. Early on in the game, you can use meta magic to perform several spells in one round. Despite having a smaller spellbook than a wizard, the burst potential is greater with sorcerers. I feel that the Sorcerer is the absolute best class in Baldur's Gate 3, at least among pure spellcasters. The majority of the finest spells in Baldur's Gate 3 for combat are available to sorcerers, including Magic Missile, Chromatic Orb, Fireball, and many others. The Sorcerer is a perfect class for you if you want to be the primary damage caster for your team. It is important to note that Sorcerers do not benefit significantly from multi-classing because they are pure casters, so it's advised that you just stick with the class as is. The last class that deserves a spot on the S tier list is the Fighter. In Baldur's Gate 3, the Fighter class is a wonderful option for those who wish to concentrate on doing damage, but also being a tank at the same time. Fighters are particularly tough in battle thanks to their large hit point capacity and access to a wide range of armor and weaponry. They also have a few skills like Action Surge and Second Wind that can significantly increase their damage output over time. The class's main strength lies in its simplicity and extra attack abilities. It is one of the best classes in Baldur's Gate 3 overall due to its high survivability, high damage, and simplicity. Just make sure you pay special attention to how your fighter is moving, whether you start battle from a distance, whether there is challenging terrain, or simply just a lot of adversaries in the area. A fighter's damage potential puts them well on their way of being one of the top classes in Baldur's Gate 3. Moving into the second tier, we're going to look at the next set of classes, still very good and powerful in their own ways, which is why they're still ranked as a higher tier class. Starting with the first A tier class option in Baldur's Gate 3, we have the Ranger, another adaptable damage dealing class. This is due to the fact that they are excellent at both melee and ranged combat, and also have a variety of animal and natural skills at their disposal. For instance, you can become a proficient sniper with Hunter's Mark, or include a new party member with an animal friend. The Ranger truly shines in the exploration category, much like the Rogue, making it one of the greatest scouts to send ahead of your party. The Ranger is a hybrid DPS class because it can deal damage to enemies in a variety of different ways. Rangers are adept fighters who feel at home in both the city and the woods. They are renowned for having excellent tracking and hunting skills, as well as the capacity to take advantage of the enchantment of nature. At level 5, Rangers have an extra attack, which is amazing for extra damage output. Next, we have the Wizard class. Due to the enormous amount of spells that can be learned and prepared, the Wizard is still one of the best classes in Baldur's Gate 3, even though it is on the A tier list. Actually, out of all of the casters, Wizards have the most spells available to them. The reality is though, Sorcerers have a superior feature called Meta Magic, and that's why the Sorcerer remains supreme. The Wizard can be lacking in social interactions and exploration because you'll be mainly concentrating on intelligence. Wizards can learn spells from scrolls that you uncover or purchase for some gold. If you have the mindset for pure min-maxing, the skill ceiling for a wizard is actually really high. But if you don't really have the patience to deal with all of that, the Sorcerer is a much safer choice. Next is the Warlock. Warlocks lack the versatility of Sorcerers as well as the comprehensiveness of a Wizard's spellbook, and Warlocks really do have the fewest spells available out of all of the spellcasters. But the spells they do know are very powerful. The Warlock is still a fantastic option when it comes to spellcaster classes. Hex will be used early on to weaken enemies and make them more vulnerable to damage. You also have Eldritch Blast, which is another spell that you might use repeatedly for hours because it's actually quite powerful. You have access to familiars, passives that offer boons, and brief rests that regenerate spell slots despite the more constrained variety of magic spells. Other classes like a Paladin, Cleric, or even a fighter can also use the Warlock as a fantastic multi-class option. This is because you have access to a number of different spells that give classes that would not otherwise have them ranged options. Overall, the Warlock is quite adaptable and can function in a variety of different settings and class configurations, making them a fitting option for the A tier list. The Barbarian class is next. Barbarians are unbeatable fighters in close quarters combat. This class's offense and defense is increased by using Rage and Frenzy. Additionally, you'll always have the opportunity to employ various tools or even living things as quote-unquote improvised weapons. The Barbarian also gets Reckless Attack early on, which gives attack roll advantages. That is a huge benefit to have. Barbarians are exceptionally strong, they are resilient, and they can produce a lot of DPS. The Barbarian's massive hit points, strong melee attacks, anger, and frenzy abilities make it a force to be reckoned with on the battlefield. Barbarians are known for their exceptional tanking abilities. They have overwhelmingly high physical strength, which allows them to win pretty much every single battle. Moving into the B tier classes, and again, these are not by any means bad choices at all. Every class has its strengths and weaknesses. The first class on this list is the Rogue, and honestly, I love the Rogue class. Due to the Rogue's sneak attack powers, poison attacks, bonus actions, Rogues are actually quite effective and can easily win most conflicts. The Rogue also offers unparalleled exploring options like lockpicking, pickpocketing, disarming traps, and generally just acting as an excellent scout for the team. Rogues are excellent at both melee and ranged combat. Their sneak attack ability lets them do a lot of damage with only one attack. Rogues also have a high damage potential and are incredibly straightforward and simple to play. In addition, they have a broad range of skills. Druids are spellcasters who focus on nature, and they actually have a pretty wide variety of spells and skills. They do possess special tactical benefits due to their ability to transform into different animal forms, for example a bear, which can actually do a lot of DPS while you're in that form. Druids are excellent at crowd control management, they're great for supporting roles, summoning, and this makes them essential resources for pretty much any team. To put it simply, the Druid really just feels like a jack of all trades, but really a master of none. The last class on the list is the Monk, and the Monk is an interesting class because just like the Druid, it isn't particularly good at any one thing. Although I will say the Monk is a master of controlling the battlefield and obtaining the upper hand on the opponents with high damage attacks. Monks can balance both stealth and close quarters melee attacks. Unfortunately, the Monk has no area of expertise. Despite having a great degree of mobility, they are less resilient than any other melee class. In comparison to other spellcasters, the spells they have access to through subclasses like the Way of the Four Elements, for example, are pretty weak. Given that there are only 4 party spaces available, this pretty much means that the Monk isn't truly the best at anything, and they really aren't worth having in the group. Thank you all so much for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to see more Baldur's Gate 3 guides, builds, and gameplay coming soon. If you don't want to miss any future uploads, turn on those bell notifications so you are notified every time I drop a new video.